They're here.
Oh my gosh, are they ever? Oh my goodness sake, it's pretty crazy out there. Good to see you guys, K-Heads. You are number one. Salutations to you. John and Jen, good to see you. Robbie, hello, hello. Carol Spirit, hello, good to see you.
Thank you guys so much for coming and joining us again. Yeah, what can you say? It's just a real crazy world that we find ourselves in. Or should we say realm? What type of reality is this really?
I don't know. But I do see we have a Miss Christina Love sighting. Good to see you, Regina. Hi, hello, hello, hello.
Yeah,
You don't see people.
those mysterious Chinese characters again, Robbie. You're right. I'm seeing a lot of mysterious, curious things lately.
Yes, and it has to do with Chinese characters.
Yeah, we're heading into a new paradigm. A new reality is coming.
Oh, we got more people.
Oh, okay, great. And, this is Sydney, by the way. Look at the color of the water.
Oh, it's good to see you, Miss Karen and Ron Simpson. Hello, hello. Jason of Oz. Hello. Israel, good to see you. Hi. Okay.
Yeah, great to see everybody. Here's another time where we've seen big bodies of water turn blood-like colors. Algae blooms is usually what this is. A lot of times it's associated also with fertilizer runoff, different toxic runoffs, creating imbalances in the ecology. But at the same time, they are taken as biblical omens and signs of impending doom.
There will be signs. I mean, that would really freak me out, but how many times has it happened in the last few years? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think Arwayne Steiger, our friend there, was doing one today that was all about, they're going to tell you it's the end of the world, but the end of the world will never come.
No, it won't. We're always in a place of transition. Yes, we're always transitioning, and the world as we know it might end someday, and something new begins. But it's never really going to end. Sorry.
Okay, as I guess the speaker was all the way up and scared your rabbit. So sorry, scare your rabbit out of her fur.
Oh, poor baby. We're sorry, Rabbit.
Yeah, absolutely. I see this is trending over here at Long Live Pakistan. Pakistan with the peace process. Trump preparing U.S. military if talks fail. We had talked about, the fact that you're witnessing. Well, democracies always change. They usually turn into dictatorships, and dictatorships can end up being an empire as time goes on, and that seems to be kind of the path that we're going down. But there's a lot of other things in play. And here you go. This is a little summary on what's going on geopolitically on the war front. Iran makes it very clear that Lebanon fighting must end, or Pakistani talks are going to be meaningless, as its delegation arrives in lockdown Pakistan. Speculation abounds relating to ongoing Pentagon transport flights into the Mideast region. Yeah, I mean, this is what we talked about yesterday. And, the weirdest part was I was looking at, the flight tracker, and as I was pulling it up to make the video, it's like so many of the flights seem to be disappearing. Just military ones. It was weird. It was almost like somebody was told, turn off your transponders. Really. Again, there is a lot of military movement going on. Trump, again, throwing out more threats. Says Iran has no cards. So what can we take? If he says Iran has no cards, then it means maybe Iran's holding more cards than anybody realizes or wants to be put out there. The Lebanese death toll stands at over 300. Some say much more than that. And literally thousands have been injured in Lebanon because of the shelling from that country that begins with an I. I did hear somebody saying, don't say that word, that the word I just said twice, that country with an L, because they're trying to block off news of what's going on there. It's a mess. It's a tangled web. I do not think that it's their purpose to stop this war at this time. It's just, it doesn't feel like it's in the plans. Pause it briefly, sure. But ultimately, we know they got goals. We know they have certain objectives. And, this is all about changing the power structure of the planet in a drastic way, and also giving us reasons to accept all sorts of higher tech big brotherhood.
Well, yeah, I mean, the goal is right now the technocracy is going to get pretty bad. They're probably going to want people's fingerprint or the eye scan just to go on something like Twitter or Facebook. And they're going to tie the banks into it. They're going to have to tie the banks into it eventually, and our identity. And then pretty soon at some point, if you do just the wrong thing, they can push a button and there goes your bank account. You're not going to be able to buy anything if you're socially not going along with the plan. But we still have choices. That's the thing. This is why we're pointing it out now, is like we have options. And I do see some states pushing back really hard on all of this technocracy, at least to some extent. I mean, we got to do what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And here you go. Vice President, I should say, right now. Vice President, currently. I would bet anything he will be president. J.D. Vance left Friday for Pakistan. The biggest challenge of his career, negotiating a deal with Iran to solve the nuclear dispute and end the war. This is a big deal for J.D. He's going to the Super Bowl, said one U.S. official. Yeah, he's leading a team, a delegation team, alongside Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Again, yeah, I was watching Ivanka and Jared and going around their security detail. You would think that they literally were from, I don't know if they have dual citizenship, but the security detail looked to be totally Mossad. It's just the reality of things. Trump said the Iranians don't seem to realize they have no cards other than a short-term extortion of the world by using international waterways. Their only reason they are alive today is to negotiate. And, it's just part of the bigger picture. Oil jumped again. What we see is that everybody ends up paying more for all their basic goods, for energy and food. That's been consistent. The non-existent middle class now, it's just, they've squeezed us so much in the last 10 years. It's just amazing. Yet, if what the Polish psychic got is right, it's just beginning. And it's all about bringing us down to that point where, again, think of Klaus and his words about us not owning anything and being happy. Maybe, they're trying to bring us to the point where we'll just be happy to have a dry place to go and sleep at night, maybe some heat, and, not be starving.
I know. I mean, wouldn't that be just nice? You're just going to be happy to, have something dry to sleep on, and, maybe some Cracker Jacks to munch on. Maybe that's where they want to take us.
That is where they want us to go. Absolutely. This is it. It's just basically, it's heading towards a total lockdown, technology controlled slave system. Iran gets Satan II nuclear 15-ton warhead from Russia. Israel has 24 hours. U.S. panics. The interesting thing I've noticed is a lot of these channels that pop up, and they put out like a dozen videos, and they have so many more views than we do, even sometimes with far less subscribers. Again, you're playing a game, and this includes YT. Obviously, this is what I'm really talking about. Being part of YT, it's like playing at a blackjack table or something in a casino. The house might let you win a little bit, but at some point in time, they're going to take back all the winnings. It's just what they do. So I was looking up this Professor Qigong, and because this is what he's talking about, is this info, and there's several channels associated with him. Feels like it's just popping up all over the place. Here you can see 3.44 thousand subscribers and 43,000 views, from 2 days ago. That's good viewership. Where did he come from? I don't know. I don't know, but you can see, look at this. What does he have? He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 videos. 9 videos. How do you go from 68 views to 24,000, 43,000? I'm just saying that it feels like, again, it's like an insidership. Somebody that maybe, again, is being promoted by the system, by one faction of the system that wants to get us used to how things are going to be in the future if that one faction wins out, the big superpower is going to be the fine dining ware country. Just like we're not used to, if you grew up in the U.S., you're not used to looking elsewhere for directions and what's going to happen in the world, meaning the U.S. set the pace. The British Empire set the pace before that. The Roman Empire set the pace before that. Now we're seeing a lot of people that there's this part of me that feels that it's kind of the CCP trying to get us used to taking directions from the CCP. And that's just how it feels.
And look at that bright American flag just right behind him there. Isn't that most appropriate? No, this is all American. It's all American. It really is. 3,000 subs and 43,000 views. I mean, really, that's really pathetic. And that's not the only one. You keep finding those, 7,000 subs and like 100,000 views. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. And it's only the things that they really want to promote. And, those channels that do so well, there's something there. They let us go sometimes when they want us to say something. We just don't catch on. We're like, oh wow, we did good, we must have said something they want us to say.
Well, yeah, early on, like before Cindy and I got together, before I had the direct knowledge coming from the guides with clarity, I was getting info, but I didn't always trust myself. Cindy's helped me to trust myself and to build a stronger connection. I was way more on board with blaming natural cycles for everything that was going on. As time has gone on, I've started to feel that the natural cycles are real, but they're not really the majority of what we're seeing. The majority of what we're seeing is manufactured, it's technological. As soon as that came out, that's when the channel was, basically relegated to not getting as many views. And, I'll never go back to anything that I don't believe in. It's just like, if something happens and I realize, I think I was a little bit off back there, then I'll just go with, recognizing that I was off. I'm not going to go back to a belief set that I no longer believe in. And, that's just me. And I'll just stick with it because it's just not worth it to compromise myself and what I, feel is important. Which I do feel it's important. I mean, we don't ever knowingly lie. We just don't lie. It's just not part of us. It's not in our system. We could be wrong on things, but we're not, misrepresenting things on purpose. And again, this is what the world cultivates. it really does cultivate that. It's a mindset that I find is harder and harder to understand, in the bigger scheme of things. But again, he might be and he's not the same as that other AI chatbot that's popping up everywhere. Was at first on the cryptos, all the different crypto channels, and then seemed to spread into the news, and now it's just everywhere. I guess these are some. Now, I don't think Professor Jiang here is a AI bot, but there are those AI agents out there too, which confuse things. I think that's what it is. Again, it's the system wants to promote what the system wants to promote, and that's things that are going to benefit it. If it's just for creating pure loosh, that's one thing. It does benefit them feeding those demonic egregores that they do utilize. And this is something that could absolutely cause a lot of fear if Iran does literally have these weapons. These are gigantic nukes. And again, I understand a lot of people don't believe nukes really exist. I think they do exist. I don't think we're allowed to use them. And I think that's why people think that they don't exist now. But I think, again, because they literally damage the fabric of time-space, a lot of extraterrestrial groups would not allow that to happen. It has happened in the past. But I don't even know if, like, all those quote-unquote nuclear tests that were done in Nevada and things were truly nukes. They might have just simply been very large conventional explosives, or they could have also been directed energy weapons or testing things like rods from God, which is telling us that they were nuclear tests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll just have to see how everything unfolds, Yeah, I'm looking at everyone in there. He's been showing up on everyone's channel. Well, what do they do when they want to re-educate people? They make sure that they get certain information, and, you get them in your feed and stuff.
Yeah. So, these just, Israel is so small land-wise that it wouldn't take much of a weapon this size, which they have 15, something like that, around a dozen or more, warheads inside them that could just split off and cause, amazing damage. It's interesting, again, to be following such a gifted psychic like Christoph Jakowski, because he's had clear visions of things, and he said that if the U.S. and Iran, U.S. and Israel do attack Iran, then Israel's going to end up extremely damaged. And literally, at one point, people will be fleeing it, and they are fleeing it. This is the thing; they are fleeing it, and wow, where are they going? They're going to Argentina. It's just like, wow. And now I know why the Milikowski brothers are in action in their respective countries. So please do make sure, guys, to thumbs up and subscribe and hype wherever you can. We appreciate that. This is a tight-knit group. Because again, they won't allow us to expand because we are hitting a lot closer to the bullseye than many other channels out there, and that's why they won't allow too much success, because they can't have people knowing that. So yeah, these are gigantic. There's some of the biggest ones ever made. Literally, that could wipe Israel totally off the map. But, Israel does have their Samson option, which I've had videos pulled for bringing that up. What does that mean? That if it looks like they're going to be wiped out, they'll launch everything they have. And they've had them for a very long time. And they do have weaponry. We've gotten from the guides that Israel has weaponry that no other country has. Again, where did they get it from? Well, the entities like Yahweh, literally, again, Anunnaki.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's information I got a while ago, that they do have very interesting weaponry.
Sin Havoc's right. Argentina is very close to Antarctica. Argentina and Chile, as close as you can get. And then you think about this. Yeah, Argentina is a layover to Antarctica. Talia says, you guys are all right on top of this. It's really wild. Here you have footage shows devastating aftermath of a massive fire that completely destroyed 1.2 million square foot Kimberly-Clark tissue paper warehouse, Ontario, California. A mad employee destroyed the whole building over his pay. Wow. And yeah, easier to just give the guy a raise, before you bring him to such
of all places, a tissue
a TP place. Yeah, I mean, that's going to go up pretty quick. And I also remember in lockdown, TP, there was no TP for people's bungholes because people were hoarding it.
Oh, wouldn't it just be like crazy weirdness if, now that they got rid of the TP paper warehouse, they go and they let us go on another lockdown and there's not even going to be any TP to buy.
So, yeah, now again, some people have brought this up, and they are trying to debunk the fact that they both have the same surname. Ultimately, if you go back, like 2 generations, both of them, their name was Milikowski. That literally was their name. Their energy is very similar. These are, I have no doubt that they are related, but it's one of those things where you go and bring it up, and it's like all the AI systems are vehemently denying that. And here you go, Malay officially allocated to Israel 100,000 hectare forest area, where people that had Israeli passports were setting the area on fire previously to get a fire sale. Yeah, absolutely. And Mel Gibson had brought out that Israel is going to move to Argentina, or at least some of them will, or they'll set up a second Israel, basically, in Argentina. Now, again, look at the builds. They're exact same builds. They're like the same height, the same weight. And their energy feels the same. It's very, very similar. And they have the same surname. And we've covered that entirely on a separate video. They are related. There's no denying that. Yeah, it's just part of this twisted story we're watching.
It's a mess.
It is. Bill Gates, very interested in your water. Well, they told us this. The WF said, well, seems like people can't figure out climate change. They won't get behind it. Maybe they'll understand when they don't have any water. Literally, that's what was said at a WEF meeting, pretty much. And while nobody's watching, Gates, BlackRock, and Nestle are buying up huge tracts of basically water, farmland. I don't think that Gil Bates has any intention of really farming that. Or if he did, it would be something very GMO oriented with tons of pesticides. But no, I think it's just to let it lie so people can't produce food. So people have to, go and eat some of his fake food, which is doing horribly. And literally so much of their program is falling totally apart. People are catching on to BlackRock, and there's backlash there. We should bankrupt BlackRock. We have to bankrupt these companies that are harming the world and harming humanity. And literally, it's like these companies are literally pointing, certain things that shoot projectiles at each of us is really what they're doing. Nestle extracting millions of gallons from drought-stricken areas to bottle and sell for profit. Yeah, again, instead of, because they're talking about literally wanting to charge you for the air you breathe, the water you drink. we should make some sort of legislation that makes it impossible for them to do so. It's just we have to think the way they think, but turn around and use it for good. So, yeah, control the water, they control the people. It's absolutely about turning all of us into slaves. This is what they are attempting to do.
Yeah. And the resources. I mean, what's going to happen to all of us if we look at how much resources the data centers are going to take up? What is going to happen to us? I mean, that's such a creepy thought.
Yeah, let's think about that and spread that thought. Wherever possible, always support the littler person. Always support the family-owned business. Let's really do our best to hurt the mega corporations as much as possible. You see here, people are getting angry. Firebomb thrown at Sam Altman's mega mansion. A Molotov cocktail attack. The OpenAI CEO's home in San Francisco was a target of an attack because people realize what they're doing. And he might look like a nice nerd, like harmless, but no, they're not harmless. And, in fact, these they do tons of harm. I think it's undeniable that they do tons of harm. When you look at OpenAI and then you look over at the very reptilian Palantir, not that OpenAI is not reptilian either. What's planned is it's very, very dark. It's very controlling. I think people are waking up. We got to keep pushing, and we cannot accept, the open slavery that they are pushing on us.
No, I think you almost have to get involved in like your low-level local government in a way.
Yeah, people, we are in the deep South, and you might think people around here don't know what's going on, but I've been surprised every time I get into a casual conversation with somebody. They know what's going on, and they might be simple country folk, but they understand that these wealthy corporations, what they're doing is just downright evil, and it's something that has to be stopped. So next few mornings from April 10th to 15th, there's a chance to spot Comet Pan-STARRS, see 2025 R3 in the morning sky before sunrise. It's about third magnitude, which is visible to the unaided eye in the constellation of Pegasus. So, again, go out and take a look. You can see it's going to be above where Saturn, well, you probably can't see the other ones too well. You can see Mars, that slate reddish tint to it. Again, is this the comet that's going to run, or did Nostradamus, when he said run, was he really talking about a series of comets? Because we certainly have had that. It's been one after another. Were you aware of the work of Dr. Max Rempel? He analyzed 581 families, found non-parental genetic markers. Wait a minute. The child's DNA doesn't match either parent? Whoa, think about that. So, how did that happen? Was it the mailman? I mean, seriously, is it the FedEx driver or is it the UPS driver?
Yeah, even then, the DNA doesn't match both parents. So what's up with that? A little implanting going on?
Well, this is exactly it. Scientists explore possibility of alien DNA in humans tied to the abduction reports. I will say that some people will say it's not aliens. It's actually our own military doing this. And I think that in some cases they're right. But in other cases, it's our military again with what we would call aliens. The big reveal is we work, when we say we, the United States military, certain U.S. military personnel do get to work with grays and sometimes reptilians and others as well, tall whites. There's a lot of different beings out there, and we have been working behind the scenes with them for a very long time.
For a lot of years, probably as long as longer than any of us are alive. We've been working with them. They've just been kind of kept in the back, but I guess we're allowed to have a little more information now. And I saw somebody mention in there the stork. Yeah, right. Definitely a flying vehicle brought the baby.
Mm-hmm. Fourth horseman asked his mom, "Who conceived me with you?" And she said, "I was immaculately conceived." Well, maybe it was part. I mean, I've had firsthand conversations with people that swear that they were impregnated by aliens, literally. And the abduction phenomenon is very, very real. So this is it's fascinating to think about this. Think about the bigger picture, though, because what's happening now is naturally with the ascension process and the energies that are coming in, it's awakening the dormant DNA, the DNA that was turned off by, the Anunnaki, so to speak, Enlil, Enki, that whole crew, and others, that are not as well written about. A lot of it was turned off. They only left us with just enough to do our job, so to speak, and work the planet for them. Well, now so much of it's being turned back on naturally. What if they're really, pulling people out to try to waylay that and to try to, again, keep as many humans as they possibly can under their control? Maybe some of the abductions going on is literally to try to create a more manageable species than Homo sapiens sapiens, because I think that is the ultimate goal. Create a new, I don't know what you would call them, but a new species that's very close to us, but will never have pineal gland activation and, the abilities that we do.
Thank you so much, Running the Gauntlet. We appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much. We do appreciate it, and thanks for all the support over the years and being part of the family. This is really fascinating stuff. A new genetic study claims alien DNA could be inserted into humans. Dr. Max Rempel, a molecular biologist with a PhD from the Institute of Gene Biology in Moscow. Sometimes you do get more honest stuff coming out of Russia than we do in our own country. Believes strands of non-human DNA possibly belonging to aliens may have been inserted inside certain families. New study claims alien DNA may have been inserted into humans. Yeah. So he sampled 581 families for his research and tested their genetic data in the public 1,000 Genomes project. He found that at least 11 families had large chunks of DNA that didn't belong to either parent or their immediate family. Out of 581 genetic samples, at least 348 variants did not match up to modern gene editing tools like CRISPR, since these genetic samples existed before even modern technology came into use. In a report from his nonprofit, the DNA Resonance Research Foundation, Dr. Rampel writes that aliens may have inserted DNA into humans. It explains why some people possess extraordinary abilities like telepathy, heightened perception, and clairvoyance. Humans may be undergoing genetic transformation. So could it be that some are actually helping us and augmenting, and maybe there's a program and others are doing the exact opposite? Very, very interesting. Cindy again has shared that she has multiple memories of being taken up into a ship and waking up literally waking up in the ship. This is pretty common in the bigger abduction phenomenon. You'll find people will have memories of being up in a ship, and it's really interesting to think of. I was just saying how you have memories of being taken up into a ship, and they literally do updates on you. And this is true. It is, and
Okay, for sport, I will talk about it. I usually talk about it on special videos, but when I was going through my awakening, I experienced going up on a ship, and yes, they did totally reprogram me because I saw it and I knew it, and I also experienced no time. And the way I experienced no time is because when I left, it was 12 o'clock on my clock, and I was out of my body, and they were up there working on me, and it felt like they did enough work for like 2 hours. It was a very long time. And then when I got back, it was 12:10. So for me, that was the experience of no time. And I saw this big, it was a white light, and I saw this weird writing in it. Maybe it was, I don't know, some type of ancient type of writing. Maybe it was Sanskrit. I don't know what kind of writing. I know I've seen it here and there on some of the shows. I've seen what the writing looks like, but it was it was a very unusual experience. And yeah, no, I don't talk about it too much because it does carry a stigma. It really does. So it's just something that did happen to me. And, sometimes you're able to, when these things happen to you and you're open about it, it does help other people. So that's why I talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've both had updates done at the same time. Now, because it's nice to have somebody with you that understands totally the things that you might not share with others. So yeah, again, these type of things stay in the family. Like my dad was a devout Catholic. It was brought up in Catholic school all the way up to, graduating high school. And yet he had zero doubts about aliens because he'd seen them. He literally had sightings. He only talked to me, really. My mom and sister were there, but I don't think they paid any attention. But yeah, he had seen. And so it was in going down family lines, and my son and my daughter both had visitations too. And this thing is something where there's certain lineages, I think, that are being used by, you might say, the Galactic Federation. There's other lineages which are being used by the Orion Group or the Draconian Federation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just so much out there that we don't understand it, but we do know it at a particular level. It's just how much of it really serves you here on the 3D, because this is the realm that we need to live in, and this is the realm that we need to address. And even though this 3D realm is still tied to the 4D realm, well, everything that we do here affects them, and everything they do affects us. We're like, kind of two sides of the same coin working together in a way.
Absolutely. So furthermore, Dr. Rempel also tested samples from people who claim aliens or extraterrestrial beings abducted them. Some genetic samples showed traces of non-parental markers, which is DNA coming from neither parent, but instead perhaps alien. He believes aliens targeted specific individuals and bloodlines, and researchers are now exploring the criteria behind this selection. Yeah, I was visited at 7 years old. It scared the living crap out of me. I was terrified, and I slept with my mom and dad for like a month afterwards. I wouldn't go back into my bed for a while because, I woke up and it was just standing there by my bedside, and it was just staring at me. And it totally terrified me and freaked me out. And, my son, same thing happened to him. Same thing happened to my daughter too, so it just goes down through the line. I suspect the same thing happened to my father as well. So Dr. Rempel revealed, if confirmed, it could possibly be to detect which humans are carrying alien DNA, essentially identifying hybrids. However, UFO researchers and scientists have warned people against blindly believing these alien abduction reports. Nigel Watson, author of Portraits of Alien Encounters Revisited, stated, "We need to carefully verify these accounts before drawing conclusions about DNA." Dr. Rempel. 2, confessed that current technology and genetic sampling might not produce accurate enough results and is looking to expand his research to better understand the phenomenon. Very, very fascinating stuff. Again, Brave just gives you a reiteration of what was out there. But I didn't notice any type of trying to hide it per se.
Cortez, if I understand that, Cindy, was your awareness clear in that moment? I would say yes. I would say yes. It was my body was left down there and I was elsewhere. So it's just very, very difficult to explain. So I've had a couple of incidences being out of my body like that. And then, that, thank you, Crypto Geezer. And when that happens to you, it really does change your perspective on everything. And then it does open up more gateways for you to work with your senses through. And thanks again so much, Crypto Geezer.
Yeah, it's wild because I've had these type of encounters all my life, and sometimes they were nerve-wracking. It's just because you don't know what to make of it when there's something really, really odd there's like right next to you. Now, this may be AI. This guy is, he's going off talking about, why are these things following me? Why are these things following me? It may be or may not. Maybe he's, got one of those genetic lineages where he's being tracked. A lot of people are tracked. I know... I was tracked. I have been tracked by certain people that, again, you think in terms of Men in Black and all that. They watch you and they know who you are. I think also this is a dead giveaway how when we're out of the body, and thank you so much, Crypto Geezer. We appreciate your support. When we're dead, we're not dead. We're just out of the body. And I think that there is some of these governmental groups might have the technology given to them by these aliens, quote unquote, ultraterrestrials, to know when a certain soul is incarnating in a certain family lineage. And I think they could do that. I think they could know, well, okay, Cindy, over here, she's going to be born in Idaho, and, this is the same soul that was this person. They know this. And so they're always watching the ones that could potentially be a thorn in their side.
I think they do, and I think they block them and they slow them down in a way because your frequency is such that sometimes people just absolutely do not like you, and they can really cause problems for you, and they can really slow you down in life. And just to send havoc about the question of the orbs with faces in them, I think they're people. They're absolutely people, and I've gotten lots of pictures of those orbs, and I did get one with a fish face. So go figure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, spirit orbs. Well, that's us out of body. That's it. I had like amazing encounters back in the 80s when I was really going through a spiritual awakening. Late 80s, early 90s. Had a lot of encounters with spirit orbs, and then even what you would say is a classic ghost. I can remember so clearly one night I took a long hot bath, as I was wont to do after a workout and a long day at work, and I just walked out on the back deck, and I noticed like an orb goes straight over my head. It was kind of purplish hue, and then this like torso, like a head and torso, went down the driveway. It was shimmering pearlescent, like the moon white. And, that was obviously what we would take to be a ghost, disembodied person. Again, why sometimes orbs, why sometimes that ghost phenomenon where it actually takes a shape. I think when you look at the ghost phenomenon where it's actually taking a human shape, they're either more recently dead or there was some sort of trauma that imprinted the physical energy into the environment.
Yeah, there's that. The energy and the frequency can become very, very chaotic, and that alone can send out certain signals.
Yeah, Martine, we didn't look at it like that back in the 80s, right? Was that the 80s or 90s, bosom buddies? Attempt to normalize things. You didn't even look at it the same way back then. Here's a triangle. It's rotating. It's like rotating on its axis.
That's like way cool. So
it is really cool.
So I think what's going on here is there's like someone on, I think this is just some guy's farm, and he's outside and he just sees this. If you look at that triangle too, you look real close, it's like translucent. You can see through parts of it. So I think it definitely has cloaking abilities, but I do believe this is just somebody's farm and they're just hanging out in the afternoon like many people are right now. And when it zooms up, yeah, you can see right through that thing. So why is it uncloaked right now? Maybe the ether has really changed some. And these things can no longer stay cloaked. Like, can you see that, honey?
It's shimmering.
Yeah, it's not. I think it's see-through. To me, it looks see-through.
It does kind of look
yeah,
see-through.
it's really weird.
Wet.
Yeah.
Wet and glistening.
I don't know. I mean, this is pretty amazing. I wonder what the cows out there are thinking. I mean, this reminds me of somebody who just probably has a horse out back and a really common guy just kicking back, having a beer, and boom, there's this big triangle in the sky. Very, very strange, but this is just becoming so common. So common. I know.
That's northern Idaho.
Northern Idaho. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country. And lots of Bigfoot. So, who knows? Maybe they were picking up or dropping off a Bigfoot.
That's pretty wild. And then you got this type of impression, and you got to wonder, is this a big, huge, cloaked triangle up there? Like, Darth Vader type mothership. We've seen this many, many years, many times. This is in Mexico, Toluca, Mexico. And, inside people are saying, look, what, do you see that? Do you see that?
And that's a huge mothership.
That's way bigger than a TR-3B. Way bigger. If that's got to be miles and miles across, if that's real, Pretty wild. And then you got like a lot of weird things now. Look at the illumination. So, is this a ship that just trying to make clouds for cover? Think this takes me back to the Bible, right? Leading them out in the wilderness, right? Moses was leading them out there in the wilderness. What you could literally walk in like 2 weeks' time, the venture of the Israelites out in the wilderness. And why were they stuck out there in 40 years? Well, maybe they were following a ship that was playing with them. Right? Let's keep them just lost walking for 40 years out in this desert.
Let's just drop them some food every now and then and see how long they'll hang out with us.
Ban everything. Good to see you. It's pretty cool. There's so much coming out right now. This is, cylindrical. This is probably reptilian. This is in Chile. So you can see people are getting their photographs and talking about it all over the world. 2026, the year of full disclosure. Yeah, I think they're getting ready again to introduce us to some non-human beings. Cousins, perhaps.
What are these folks doing? Where's that at?
Chile. That was in Chile. This is in Texas, Decatur, Texas. So, I mean, when you see this, sometimes we've seen all of a sudden one of these orbs moves off, and sometimes they stay like it's literally points of a gigantic ship. So that cloud type of thing we saw, triangular, this looks like it may be a similar size.
I think that they cloaked because at one point they had to. but I don't think that they have to anymore. So I do believe that that was part of an agreement that I got some time ago that had changed over the summer, and now I just they're not fully cloaking because they don't have to. But the cloaking technology was there for a reason, for a purpose, to keep humanity in the dark for as long as possible.
Yeah, so this is pretty wild stuff. How about this one?
That one's fun.
This one's fun too. Let's see, was
Chingadera. Hasta aquí volada. Como di que bajó. Y me paré.
Would you walk over to it?
Me no te pases de lanza, mira. Así era el pinche zoom. La verga. Su puta madre. Está moviendo esa chingadera.
What do you make of that? This is in Mexico too. Garcia Nuevo Leon. This was back in 2023. This looks like the ship is just sitting there right on the ground.
Why doesn't it surprise me? It just looks like it belongs there out in that desert. And the guy he has a very calm voice. I mean, he's not excited. It just seems like, well, he sees it, he stops, he just starts talking and videotaping. Is he FedEx driver?
He's FedEx.
Oh, wow. That is so crazy. So this poor FedEx driver is like, he sees a thing. I would have to stop and look at it. Would I go over to it? Absolutely not. Not after.
I would.
Well, not after what happened to us in Mississippi with that thing stuck to the truck.
Yeah.
Because
that was a triangle and this is a saucer, so
maybe it's different. Maybe it's not going to radiate you to death.
if that was like a TR3B, no, I wouldn't go by it. But being a saucer, you never know. It could be a gray or it could be a Pleiadian. It could be some other type of being too. Very curious. A lot of weird stuff going on. This person here is filming. This is in Chile also. So there's been quite a bit coming out of South America. South America always is busy with these sightings. But it's just gone to an all new place. It says it's a gigantic ship, completely motionless. Chile. Oh, too, I think back to Wayne and his thing. It was analyzed, people are analyzing it. His thing, because his was only visible in infrared. So that was the thing. If you looked with just regular, your regular eyes or the camera, it didn't catch it, but the infrared caught it.
Yeah, that Wayne's, they said it had these rods on it, or they just called it rod. I mean, that thing was really interesting. I think Wayne can definitely call himself a contactee now. That was really amazing. And then he had sent me both videos, the one with infrared with the entities, and then one without the infrared, and you can't see it without the infrared. So that was a really amazing catch that Wayne got, and I really don't think it was I don't think it was a mistake at all. I think it meant to show itself to him so that he could show other people.
Yeah, this is interesting. Could be tier 3B. We've seen stuff like this out in the desert all the time. How about this cloud? Yeah, I'm sure they have a fancy name for it. Almost looks like a jellyfish cloud or something. It's weird.
I kind of felt like that this one is a live ship. It's some type of a live plasma ship. Yeah.
Very cool. Where was this one? This is in Brazil. Yeah, April 7th this year. So yeah, just a few days ago. It was like all the colors of a rainbow.
And where's this at?
Brazil.
Wow.
I mean, that to me that almost looks like eyes or something up there, doesn't it?
Well, look, it's giving off a vibration because she says up there, she said your heart fills with joy just from seeing it. So this is definitely a plasma frequency type thing. This is, to me, that even just further confirms it's like a positive, probably fifth dimensional light ship that's now showing itself in the 3D. So what does that tell us?
It to me it almost reminds me of some sort of embryo. It's really, kind of like a plasma embryo. It's just weird. That is a odd one. This is Alberta, Canada, and when I first saw this, I thought, okay, this is just AI. But yeah, you never know. It's kind of curious. The orbs. Nothing would surprise me at this point in time now.
No, these two look pretty playful. Mm-hmm.
Plasma whale. Yeah, that's right, Cortez. It looks kind of like a plasma whale of sorts, and it feels like a peaceful, intelligent being. Yeah, there's just so much going on right now. It's just wild. So many sightings and stuff, and this is military jets going, and then something goes by so fast it like leaves them in the dust. Yeah, there's a lot to be revealed here. A lot to be revealed. As we had said, I think Israel does have some weapons that it's holding back for opportune time to use them. That again is otherworldly, but I think others might have things like that too. This is supposed to be from NASA, so never a straight answer. Yeah, we'll never get clarity. So I think they do insert things purposely in as part of that disclosure. Where are the, what is it, 30,000 satellites up in space? Is that what they get to say now? I don't know how many SpaceX has. And yeah, there's a lot of things there. Okay, is that a Draco ship leaving? Could be. Yeah, the fake moon landings and all, but it doesn't mean that there's not aliens. Of course there's aliens. There's all sorts of things out there. I'm not sure where this one was. That seemed to be moving pretty fast.
It's an F-16. I don't think an F-16 could manoeuvre like that. I think we're all agreed on that one.
No.
It's not alien because there's an exhaust. I think that could be air resistance rather than exhaust. Someone said it's Iron Man. Someone said, why do they play hide and seek instead of showing themselves once and for all? I've always wondered about this. Would this be the earth-shattering news that everyone makes it out to be? I think that even last year the US government said UAPs are real, there's things up there we can't explain. I don't remember anyone running for the hills, the stock markets didn't crash, so I don't think it'll be a big deal. Someone said they've seen the same video from a different angle. I've got that video, so it was filmed from two angles on the same.
Yeah, so this is, I don't know if that's Australia or UK, but that's cool. It changes directions. And then you got this one. This is DC. It's a little blurry and all. It's hard to tell. I mean, are these just simply planes coming in? I don't know. Again, nothing at this point in time would surprise us, but it does remind me of the famous incident wherein this flying saucers buzzed DC, buzzed Washington. Were they really inhabited by Nazis from Argentina via Antarctica?
Yeah, the guy was asking, why don't they just stop and show themselves? No, I think when they have to go too close to Earth, they lock their doors and drive faster because humans are crazy. Humans are absolutely whacked. Why would they stop and show themselves?
How about this? This is really weird because you watch this and it's like it's late dancing or just that. See? What is that? Did you see that segment? It just like comes out and then starts pulling back in. Are these elementals? Are these air elementals having fun up there? Could be. Humans are finally starting to wake up.
Well, it certainly looks like an organic type of movement, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing mechanical. I don't see anything mechanical there. I think they're just trying to get our attention to see who's awake and who's not.
I think so too. I think, they're definitely reaching out now.
It is wild, and I think it's fun when we look at it. So now then maybe we look at some of these strange things that are carved thousands of years old. Sure, it could be some sort of aliens with, technology. Maybe this is what that's depicting. It could be a woman with long hair and it's just in front of her face. Man. Squidward, yeah.
Squidward's family.
This is in the Sahara.
Family photo.
Oh, there's so much in the Sahara that would give us a lot of answers.
I know. It's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It is fascinating. And, listen to your instincts and listen to your guides. They're always talking to you, whether you could hear them or not. I know a lot of you guys can hear your guides. Please do leave a comment if you can actually hear your guides and you communicate with your guides on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's definitely, we should all be doing it.
Yeah, cultivate that. Again, it's normal. It truly is normal. We've just been taught it's demonic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the beings that love you and care about you and know you better than anybody, they're not going to be demonic. Unless you are a demon yourself. But again, some of those are here too, and we could look to the political groups to find them.
Right. So are we ready for ding? Okay. So we want to say a huge thank you to Big Mike on Patreon. Glad to have him here. And we want to say a huge thank you to Running the Gauntlet and Crypto Geezer. You guys, we really appreciate your help and your support. It goes a long ways toward, helping us do the work that we do. And everyone else, all your thumbs up and all your support in every way on Patreon, everywhere. It really helps us pull you guys together and create the intention and put the positive energy out there. So think some happy thoughts. Here go the dings. You guys are amazing.
Much love, guys. Loka samasta suki no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. And may my thoughts, words, actions, and deeds contribute to their happiness. We couldn't do it without you guys. Much love. Source bless. Namaste.
Namaste.